Good evening, everybody. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the South Haven City Council. It's Monday, February the 7th, 2022, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. The invocation this evening will be given by Pastor Jeffrey Dick of the First Congregational Church. And good evening, Jeffrey. Thank you for being here.
That's okay. I can get to that. Okay. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here tonight. Let us be in a spirit of prayer. Holy and gracious God, we give you thanks for this beautiful city that we call our home. We give you thanks for all of those who have dedicated themselves to serving in leadership positions. We ask your guidance upon them this night as they come and gather to meet. As we gather this night, we also give you thanks for those leaders who have gone before us. And we especially remember Dorothy Appleyard, a woman who exemplified service to her community. We ask that you be with her family and comfort them in this time of mourning. Bless us, dear God, as a city. Continue to remind us of the purpose of being together as a community, of serving one another, and looking out for the better good of all people. For we ask all of these prayers in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. All right, and next we're going to have a little help. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to have a flag ceremony by our Cub Scout Pack 188 and Boy Scout Troop 188. These are all these good-looking folks over here.
Face the flag. Okay. Got it? All right. Okay. Where's my leader?
I think I am.
Okay. So, ready? Start us off.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, guys. Good job.
Good job, boy.
I'll go downstairs. I'll get the bag.
What is that? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for helping getting us started tonight. Yep, you guys take your time. Good job. Thanks, everybody. All right, roll call. Megan.
Jeff Arnold.
Here.
Wendy O'Nucky.
Here.
Joe Reeser.
Here.
Steve Schlack.
Here.
George Sleeper.
Here.
Letitia Wilkins.
Here.
Scott Smith.
Here. That takes us to the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Agenda's approved. Looking out. Oh, she's out there. Next, we have an update from our Van Buren County Commissioner, Gail Patterson-Gladney. And good evening.
Good evening. Hello. Well, thank you for your time and attention. And I do want to say that my prayers are with the family of the Appleyards. Former Mayor Dorothy Appleyard was a big influence on many people in our community and did a lot of work for our community. So I just wanted to say a couple things. First of all, one of the things that the county is looking at and considering working with is the Children's Advocacy Center. We don't have one here. I don't know if any of you are aware of a Children's Advocacy Center and what it does. I had to learn. We had someone present from Safe Harbor Children's Advocacy Center, and they want to have a satellite office in Van Buren County. So that's one of the things that we are working at to see if that's a possibility in our county. The program that they offer is a forensic interview services for children who have been sexually or physically abused. And they also coordinate with other services, referral services, for additional services for the children. And this program is supported by our prosecutor, Susan Zweidevin, and the Van Buren County Sheriff's Department. One of the things that I found out when the presentation was made is that because Van Buren County doesn't have a center, the children have to go to Allegan or Kalamazoo. They have to wait, and the services are delayed. And also, sometimes if the parents don't have transportation, the kids might not get the services that they need. So that's one of the things that the county's looking at. We're also looking at possibly a county park, and you can go on our website and see some of the progress that we've made. VanBurenCountyMI.gov. And that way also you can see when our meetings are. I think it's great now that the public can come to our meetings in Pawpaw or go on Zoom. And you can see some of the different programs that we have. I wanted to just mention our ARPA funds. We've been allocating ARPA funds to different projects, and that includes $7 million for the broadband expansion. We will be looking at some important programs that South Haven has, especially the lead pipe replacement, which that's going to be going before the county board. And if anyone would like to come support your city, we welcome you to come, or even go online. And you can also make a statement if it's something that you think that you would like to support. The county has received over $1,290,000 in grants, and we've accepted those. I wanted to mention also the Palisades Community Advisory Panel. We had our first meeting on January 26th. The next one will be April 13th, and at LMC at 6 p.m. And please visit our website so you can be involved in what's going on with the county, because this is your money at work also. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me. My number is 269-637-0862. And if I'm not there, please leave a clear message and I will get back with you. Do you have any questions? Any questions?
See none? Thanks,
Okay.
Gail. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
All right, that takes us to the consent agenda, items A through H.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, A through H.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Arnold.
Yes.
Onuki.
Yes.
Reeser.
Yes.
Schlack.
Yes.
Sleeper.
Yes.
Wilkins.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. Takes us to new business. City Council will be asked to receive a presentation from Mr. Doug Radeveld of Radeveld Hafner LLC, the city's independent auditing firm, to accept the audit report as presented and place the report on file. So why don't we go ahead, we can hear the report, and then I'll just seek a motion to place it on file. Good evening, Doug. Thank you for joining us this evening and talking numbers.
Yes, thank you for having me come and go through your audit very quickly, hopefully. Hopefully my slides come up before I get there. Let me know if I have to do anything. So I'll start anyway, and we'll get to the slides, hopefully.
That's good.
Got it.
And also good evening to Michelle as well.
Okay, thank you. So this is audit report. Was audited as of June 30, so it's kind of pretty old information at this point. But your audit report book is divided into several different sections. It is presented to the Government Finance Officers Association for an award for excellence in financial reporting. You did receive that award, and it's included in here for your 2020 report. And the intention is that you'll also receive that award for this report because it's been submitted, hasn't been graded or awarded yet, but it's intended to do that. On the financial section tab, I don't know if you have your books with you, but the first page there, on page number 1 of the audit report, is our opinion on the financial statements. And right at the bottom of the page one, it gives our opinion. It says the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the city. So that's a good, clean report, and certainly what you want to have when an audit is done. And in addition to that, we expand the scope of the audit a little bit to include generally accepted government auditing standards. So there's a report on internal control and compliance on the very last page of the audit book, page 125, if anyone made it back that far. But we look at both the compliance and internal controls at the financial statement level. And in that report, we would give you any reportable conditions, material weaknesses, that kind of thing, significant deficiencies, and there weren't any of those either. So there's nothing reported back there. It's a standard, clean report as well. So that's good news as well. And then the basic financial statements, do you have books or not? But it's on page 13, and this is where I can start the slides here. So the first couple slides, first on page 13 of the report, which is your statement of net position, just wanted to point out that your unrestricted net position, which is a little different than your fund balances, net position encompasses a full accrual basis of accounting, and it's on a government-wide basis, so it's all of your funds boiled together except the business-type funds, the water, sewer, electric, those kind of funds. But you have a positive fund balance in those funds of 1.9 million. You also have a net pension liability of 3.2 million, and I don't go to many city council meetings where there's actually a positive net position there because of the significance of the debt and pension and OPEB liabilities that are recorded. So you guys are in a positive shape there. It's very good to be that way. And then on this is page 14 and 15, this is representative of those pages in the audit report. Just to give you a little picture, we're comparing here the general activities, the governmental activities of the city compared to the direct or program revenues that are received under each function. And you can see there's nothing unusual, but some of the information, the general fund program revenues are charges for services generally. The revenue here under Public Works includes all your Act 51 street money. And the reason the expenses there are so high is because of depreciation on streets and that kind of thing, on the infrastructure that goes in there. So there's a significant amount of depreciation that goes into that. On the next slide is just a little picture of where all the governmental activities revenue is coming from in the city. So about 56% of it's coming from property tax, 14% from charges for services, and there's some operating grants, which included some COVID money this year, as well as the street funds and that kind of thing. The Act 51 money is about 16%, and you can see state shared there is 5% of your total revenue stream in the governmental activities. And again, that doesn't include any of the utility funds or electric funds or any of that kind of thing. So these next several slides, these come from, this is just your general fund now. This is more what you're accustomed to seeing on a month-to-month basis. Those other statements you don't normally see on a month-to-month basis because they're full accrual basis. But this is your general fund alone, and just a snapshot of how that one's looking. The property taxes, you can see, have been climbing just steadily each year in the general fund. And state revenues, you can see that took a jump. There's a recreation grant included in there this year, so that's why it jumped up a little bit. Charges for services and other revenues have remained very steady for the last several years. I got 5 years worth of history there. Property tax revenues, you can again see a little bit of a longer timeline, but it's gone from a little under 4 million in 2015 to a little over 6 in 2021. So again, good to see increasing every year a little bit. That's mostly growth in the city. Now this one looks very unusual this year. You don't often see general government going down. Public safety, this is expenditures again, sorry. But general government is less than last year. Public safety is less. Public works is less. Culture and recreation is less. So all of your expenses were held very well under control during 2021. There were several amounts. If you have your book on page 59, it's a good picture to see there. This is your budget to actual. There was nothing over budget. The budget was initially, for expenditures, was budgeted to be about 8.7 million, which was amended to 8.2 million, and your total expenditures came in at 7.8 million. So you're about 400,000 under your amended budget, which was even reduced. But some of the bigger under-budget items included police. There was a lot of police salaries budgeted where positions didn't get filled, and wages and overtime were held under control, so there wasn't as much of that. Under streets, there were some improvements that were budgeted, I believe on sidewalks primarily, that didn't get completed, so didn't get expended during this 2021. And then under parks, there was some contractual consulting, which wasn't quite as high as expected. So that all boiled into this. Those were the three major under expended amounts. So bottom line in the general fund, I didn't write all my notes down. So bottom line in the general fund, which is on page 18, is the general fund increased 1.1 million from the previous year. That's a good increase. Revenues came in at 7.8, expenses were 7.8, and then there was property tax equivalent payments that come in from your electric utilities. And that was about 1.4 million. So that's why there's a nice increase there in the general fund. And this is another picture of the expenditures by function, again, over a little longer time frame. And this is the expenditures we just look at as a percentage of the total. So they're all, general fund or public safety was still up just a little bit as a percentage of the total, but you know, they fluctuate very, very little from year to year to year as a percentage of your total revenues. 2020, the culture and recreation jumped up a little bit, primarily because of the splash pad construction that was going on in there. So just some interesting history. And then this next slide, this is your general fund balance as a percentage of expenditures and transfers. I mentioned the expenditures were down. You had a big bottom line. So your total fund balance as a percentage of your expenditures is up to about 50%. Last year was about 32 or 3%. So that's what feeds into that. So overall, general fund is in great shape, which really drives how the city overall does. Now these next several slides are your utility funds. You have a lot of different business type activities. The electric fund is one, but the bottom line in the electric fund this year was 3.2 million. Another important factor that we look at in these utility funds is the cash flows, because the cash flow really needs to be there to fund debt and that kind of thing. But cash in the utility funds was also up about 3 million. So the electric fund had a very good year as well, very strong year. Then the next slide here is the sewer fund. The sewer fund came in positive. 2020 looks really weird there because there was a very large transfer to Shawsa during 2020, which was a one-time transfer, so that was a negative. And then cash in the sewer fund remained even. It changed less than $8,000 for the year, and it's in good shape. Water fund had a good year. It looks like they make a ton of money, about $800,000, but their cash actually went down for the year, about $121,000, and that's because there's a lot of bond principal being paid out of the water fund, so about $900,000 is being paid out of there, which doesn't get reflected in the bottom line. And then just some other selected funds fund balance. You can see the general fund again, the top one is up. Major and local streets went up a little bit. Street improvements is down a little bit, but overall, all in decent shape. There is also a couple of other business funds, which they're called non-major funds, so I didn't make a slide for them, but the Marina Fund actually has a deficit, which I think you're talking about later tonight. And then you also, in addition to the general primary government financial statements, within this book is your all of your TIFA districts, your DDA, that's all in here as well, and one of those is also in a deficit position, is one of the TIFA funds. So just to be aware of. Nothing in danger, but that's how they work when they're capturing tax. And the marina had a couple of down years with flooding and so forth, so. I think that's all I was going to say. Is there any questions? Yes, sir. Thank you.
When you had the slide up there about the electric fund, and you said we had a good year, I guess I'm looking at it two different ways. One is, yeah, we had a lot of revenue for electric, but if, as a resident, I would think, well, wait a minute, look how much extra you collected this year than prior years. Maybe we should cut the rate for electricity. You know, so a good year in terms of the city bringing money in is a bad year for residents in terms of paying more.
Potentially.
Or am I wrong on that?
Well, potentially. I mean, there's a lot that goes into determining utility rates, and I didn't go back to look at the exact reasoning of why this one was up so high compared to other years. You can see, depending on the rates that are getting charged, sometimes there's a lag because you're purchasing electricity too, and sometimes there's a lag between where the rates are set and what you're actually paying. So that's, you can see in 2016 and 2020, you were backwards on that lag, and now this year you're ahead of it, and also in 2017. So those rates fluctuate, and you try to keep up with those with the residential rates, and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose.
Michelle, did you have anything to add?
Yes, there's the AMI, we're changing over the meters, and there's a supply chain issue with that, with getting the meters in. It was already supposed to be done, but it's a $2 million project. So that should have been done this past year, but because we can't get the meters in yet, it's not been done yet.
And that income is reflected in
Right,
that
so
fund.
Yeah.
That's
It
the
should have
biggest
been
piece of
extended
that, is
out.
that
Okay.
metering.
Yeah, that'll affect your cash flow for sure, and then those will get put into the system and then depreciated over their useful life.
Another question. At the very beginning of the presentation, you talked about, I can't remember how you phrased it, but about, I believe, benefits for employees, and we got into a little bit about retirement. You see a lot of cities, so you get a big overview of many cities in the state. How many municipalities have defined benefit retirement funds for their employees versus 401Ks? Because it's my understanding that most companies have pulled away from defined benefit, and municipalities, cities, some of them have gone broke because as they get older, these defined benefits continue to grow because so many people retire, and they get a balloon at some point where they can't even sustain the retirement. So where I'm going with my question is, A, where do we stand versus other cities, defined versus 401K, because we have defined? And then secondly, do you see any danger and any benefit of going to a 401K for employees?
So,
Or is that a loaded question?
no, I can try to address it. But, so defined benefit plans, many cities, most cities have a defined benefit plan. But what many cities have started doing is taking away the defined benefit plan from new employees and putting them into, it's a 401A plan for a governmental unit, which is similar to how a 401K would operate, where the employee puts in some and the city would put in some. But the defined benefit plans do tend to stay there until everybody who is under that defined benefit passes away, which who knows how long that's going to be. The actuaries do an estimate of that liability, and they have, life tables and all kinds of things that go into that actuarial liability.
But long-term, it does save the city or the municipality money. And secondly, for a lot of employees who change jobs frequently, and that's common now in this country, they take it with them, where a defined benefit, you can work 4 or 5 years and get no retirement when you leave.
Yeah,
If you work 4 or 5 years with a 401K, you take that money with you, and if you change jobs every 5 years the rest of your life, you could still retire with a nice lump sum of money.
Yeah, a defined benefit is not as portable as a defined contribution type plan like a 401K or a 401A. But the defined benefit, once you've earned the benefit, always stays there. And really what it comes down to me, to make it, I'm trying to keep it simple for myself, but a defined benefit plan puts fiduciary responsibility on the city, and all market fluctuations and everything stay on the city. With a 401K, and the individual employee assumes that liability or the potential market losses and everything else. So either the city takes it on and tries to guesstimate as best as they can what it is, or the individual employee takes it on. The other good thing about a defined contribution plan is you keep it even if you pass away, and it can go to your beneficiaries. A defined benefit plan ends when you do.
As well. Yep.
That's my take on defined benefit versus defined contribution.
Gotcha.
Sounds good. Any other questions? No other questions? Good report. Thank you very much for the information, and I just need to,
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
thank you very much. Just need a motion to accept that report and place it
I'll
on.
make a motion to accept the report that we just heard.
Second.
Motion second to accept the report, place it on file in the Finance Department. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is placed on file. Again, thanks again, Doug, for coming out on this lovely night. All right, next, City Council will be asked to consider approving the proposed increase to seasonal staff wages. I think, who's coming up? Kim coming up? So, and why don't we start, we'll get a motion first, and
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed increase to seasonal staff wages.
Second.
all right, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Got Kim up. Good evening, Kim.
Good evening. So you have the proposal in front of you. Tonight I wanted to give you a little bit more information about why we're requesting this increase in pay for our seasonal workers. So to give you a little background, from February to September of last year, we had 82 people apply for seasonal positions. Of those 82 candidates, we were able to hire or rehire only 34 people. Now, if those 34 staff members would have worked the entire season, we would have been okay. But these 34 staff members came and went throughout the season. We utilize most of our seasonal staff from April to October, so it's not just a June, July, August type of thing. Last year, the average tenure of our seasonal staff member was 3 months and 26 days, falling well short of covering our 7-month need. As we've talked about before, we typically budget for 10 seasonal parks and cemetery workers, and these last few years, we've only been able to recruit 3 or 4 workers. Because of this, we've had to rely on our full-time DPW staff to come in on weekends or on evenings to clean our public bathrooms and to pick up trash at overtime rates of at least $33.24 per hour. Now, Bill Hunter will be coming to council soon with a proposal for additional contracted lawn care services. If that's approved, we'll likely only need to hire 5 parks and cemetery workers this year instead of 10. That's going to save us some money there. I've been asked which seasonal positions we struggle with most in recruiting, and the answer to that would be all of them, but they're for different reasons. If you ask Elizabeth Santana, our marina office supervisor, she'll tell you that's a daily occurrence for dockhands to call off due to conflicts of interest with summer sports or camps. Or they simply quit after a few weeks or days on the job because they make more money in tips working at restaurants or because they don't like cleaning bathrooms. We have 3 dedicated bridge tenders who return every year, but it's tough to find staff to fill the gaps on the schedule. Again, we've had to use full-time staff from DPW occasionally at the bridge when we couldn't hire enough bridge tenders. Now, everybody thinks it'd be a cool job to sit at the bridge, watch the boats, watch the cars, watch the people go by. That's until they see the tiny quarters that we have over at the bridge. Plus, the responsibility and stress that comes with that position is more than some people can take. On a daily basis, our bridge tenders deal with pedestrians and vehicles who try to beat the light or make it under the crossing arms as it's being lowered. I don't know if you saw this or not, but just yesterday, a woman walking her bike across the drawbridge in West Palm Beach, Florida, died when the drawbridge was raised while she was still on it. These are the type of scary scenarios that our bridge tenders look for and they prevent every day. Currently, we're fully staffed with our crossing guards, but that's highly unusual because the shift is 1 hour in the morning and then 1 hour in the afternoon. So not many people want to work 10 hours a week with a large gap between the start and end of their day. So this year, many of our larger events will be coming back in full force, and we need staff available to provide the services that keep the shine on South Haven. We need to recruit staff who are willing to work nights, weekends, holidays, and major festivals. We need staff who are willing to clean public bathrooms and all the fun surprises that come with that. Staff who have excellent de-escalation techniques to deal with aggressive customers, and staff who take pride in the work that they do. Please let me be very clear that if we intend to recruit these diamonds in the rough, we need to pay a competitive wage. And what I've been told time and time again from our candidates, $11 to $13 an hour is not enough. They want higher wages, or they're going to work someplace else. One final note, 23% of our current full-time staff started off as part-time or seasonal workers. Recruiting great seasonal staff not only helps us with our current needs, but also with our future full-time recruitment efforts as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Good report.
Thanks.
Any questions? I mean, I know where you're at. I mean, it's, I've talked to, folks at McDonald's are making $14 an hour right now, and we know it's competitive everywhere, so. And we will be having a discussion with Bill as far as those contracts. We'll look at how those come in and then decide if it makes more sense to contract versus if we think we can hire people, and we'll be going through that.
Sure, absolutely. And one other thing I'd love to share is that we are looking at doing a seasonal job fair right here in City Council chambers. That's going to be on Saturday, February 26th, noon to 2 p.m. We're going to be sending out press releases, social media blast, and we'd love to get people to help us spread the word on that.
Good idea.
Yes, sir.
Maybe a commentary on it, but I've read more than once that the top 20% of income earners in this country for the last 20 years have made more than inflation. The bottom 20% of income earners haven't even kept up with inflation. I suspect the people that you're trying to hire deserve an increase just to keep up with inflation. And I think a lot of people today are just saying, if I can't get a fair wage, I'm not going to work, aside from the pandemic, which creates a whole nother problem. So I support us raising wages for the seasonal employees.
I appreciate that. I've had numerous candidates tell me they wanted to work for us, but because of our low wages for our seasonal positions, they couldn't do it.
And these are non-benefited, these are not, these are, again, seasonal, just so
Correct.
everyone's aware. These are
They
coming
have to
on a
work
part-time
under-
basis and out, so.
Correct. They have to work under 30 hours a week average, so they don't qualify for the benefits.
Versus having to pull in a benefited employee, pay him overtime. So, there's clearly a financial benefit to doing
Sure.
this right. Any other questions, comments?
Just to confirm that this gets rid of the 25-cent
Yes,
bonus,
sir.
correct?
That end-of-year salary bonus really didn't do us much good. It wasn't incentivizing people to stay.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm happy to see the wages go up to be closer to a livable wage for a lot of people. And hopefully we can retain some quality workers that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's, we take any public comments on this, and then we'll see if we got anything else. Public questions, comments? Seeing none. Any other council questions, comments? Nothing. All right, we've got a motion, we've got a second to approve the proposed seasonal wage increase. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's approved. Thanks, Kim, appreciate it. All right, next. City Council will be asked to consider the following actions regarding adult use marijuana safety compliance facilities. First, introduce an ordinance to amend Section 1510.35 and 2300 of the South Haven zoning ordinance to authorize and regulate adult use marijuana safety compliance facilities as special uses in the marijuana business overlay zoning district. We start with that one.
I'll make a motion to introduce an ordinance to amend Section 1510-35 and 2300 of South Haven zoning ordinances to authorize and regulate adult use marijuana safety compliance facilities as special uses in marijuana business overlay zoning district.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Kate, you take it this one?
Yes, thank you, and I'll be tag teaming here with Griffin. So this came out of the request from earlier last year, rather, I should say, from a local business that already is doing safety compliance testing for medical marijuana. They have an established business and are business park. They are currently in the overlay zone. They did request, the company is New Age Landmark, which we do see the owner here, did request to be allowed to do adult use or recreational marijuana testing facilities. That has gone through the Planning Commission, and Griffin can give us an update on what occurred there.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, everyone. The Planning Commission did review this topic as was requested by City Council. There wasn't a lot of discussion on this topic. I think most of the Planning Commission found that because this type of use was already allowed for medical marijuana, the adult use, or increasing it to add adult use really wasn't much of a planning or a zoning question, but a lot more of a policy question. So really based on that, the Planning Commission made the recommendation to forward this back to City Council.
Okay. Sounds good. And we're all aware of what it is, so would you like to take public comments first or talk first? We got two pieces here. All right, let's get some public comment. Anybody from the public like to speak on this? And if so, come on up, state your name and address. You'll have up to 5 minutes to discuss. So we got two pieces here. First is just discussing the zoning part. So go ahead. Good evening.
I'm Don Bemis at 740 Phillips Street. I'm really here to talk more about process. I'm not going to talk about the relative merits of recreational marijuana or medical marijuana or anything else. But what we have in this case is that due to a perception on the part of some people, an initiative was introduced to prohibit any recreational marijuana businesses in South Haven, including the ones listed right here. And the majority of the people who went to the polls voted in good faith to prohibit. The perception I was speaking of on the part of some people, including myself, was that it seemed that the city council was perhaps going down a path that differed from what perhaps the public was interested in. As it turned out, the public did not want it. Now, what we have now is essentially the same thing again, where city council is going to be voting on this and essentially nibbling away at what the public voted for. If the presentation before us tonight were to present this to the public for a vote to see if the public had changed their minds or see if they still felt the same way, I would have no problem with it. I do have concerns about this because the minute the first deviation from what the public voted for is passed, there will be nothing to stop the entire ordinance or the rules that the public voted for being nibbled away a bite at a time until it's all gone. My concern really is that in Washington, in Lansing, around the country, there seems to be a perception that voters are a nuisance. If the elections don't go the way you want them to go, you either legislate your way around them or you forget the election ever happened. I don't want to see that happen in South Haven. Since the voters did vote on this, I would like the voters to vote on it again, and then the city can present it any way they want. But to go against what the public voted for, not in a public vote, concerns me. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
Bill Wilkins, 811 Indiana Street. Mr. Beam has pretty much said everything that I was thinking. For the council to allow a vote on this tonight would be slapping all the voters that came out, did it the democratic way, way of democracy, they voted against it. To vote on that tonight would be pushing and do away with all the votes that came in that night. So I agree with Bemis that the voters should, the residents should have a chance to vote on this issue. That business was included when the voters said we don't want anything to do with recreational. You can do marijuana, medicinal testing and all that, but with recreational, no. The voters voted against it. And for the council
to accept this and to vote on it tonight would be a black eye on the way we do business. And that is giving people a chance to vote on it and make the decision. So I agree certain what Dean Bemis said tonight.
Thank you, Joe.
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. I have to empathize for the two gentlemen who spoke before me about following procedure and following what the voters want. I think that is critical. But if you do forge ahead like we all expect you to do, I do believe that there is a grammatical wrong word use, as I presented in the material I presented over the weekend, with regard to section 1418. The change of article to division, I think it's very confusing, and I think it should be section, just as it is similarly used in section 1510.35. I would recommend that amendment before you approve it. I think otherwise the ordinance is not very clear with regard to definitions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening.
Evening, Scott.
I'm Scott Wall. I own New Age Laboratories, the business that's in question.
Throw your
Or-
address also.
What's that?
Address also, please.
Oh, it's 160 Veterans Boulevard.
Thank you.
I appreciate what the gentlemen have spoke about concerning whether or not this should be a public vote or not a public vote. It was brought to a public vote. In my understanding of that vote is that that statute goes for a year and then it can be readdressed. And that's exactly what we've done. After the year expired, we brought it back to the city to ask them to reconsider it. And that's exactly the process that we've done. We haven't gone outside of the rules. We have not gone behind anybody's back in doing this. So I don't want them to consider that we're trying to do any backroom deals or anything that's shady in this. In no way is what the business that we're doing there bringing any additional marijuana, adult use, or medical into the city of South Haven for consumption or use in any way, shape, or form. This is simply a business transaction in which we test it. Anything that's left over has to be destroyed so that it cannot be used in any way, shape, or form. That means it must be mixed and combined with debris, soil, you name it, so that it cannot be used for human consumption in any way, shape, or form. In Michigan, currently, when we went forward with the medical marijuana, it was the majority of the industry. Today, adult use now makes up 90% of the cannabis industry here in Michigan. That is a major shift in what is part of our industry, which is the testing compliance. Now, testing and compliance of cannabis is not the sole end-all to our business. So if you were to say no, that is not going to shutter our business. But it is a considerable revenue-generating function for us. And it does mean jobs here in South Haven that has something to do with South Haven that is not directly tied to recreation, tourism. They're technical, high-paying jobs. You know, a minimum starting job for somebody who only has a high school degree is $16 an hour with full health insurance in our facility. There's not too many positions like that in South Haven. So I would like you to consider the fact that we've been here for over 14 years. It's not like we're asking you to put in, approve a consumption lounge or a provisioning center that would open up sale of adult use marijuana. This is a testing facility and testing facility only. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. All right. Anybody else for this piece? All right. Nobody else has questions. We can council comments, discussion on this one?
Just a matter of formality is, I believe that the one speaker talked about the one-word change, and from division to section, I think that would be a good change. What would be the process to get that made? Can we just have that, do we have to include that in the motion, or?
We'll take those comments, and so by moving to if the council wishes to move to introduce, we'll just note that there will be a change from division to section in compliance with the other use of words in our codes there. I've seen that, and I've talked that over with the attorney, so that's a pretty simple change, and it does make sense.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions, comments? Joe?
Yeah, 2 points. First, I've said it many times, and I think the last gentleman who owns the company just said it, but I'll say it's slightly different, is that I have never heard anyone yet say how testing of marijuana, and it gets destroyed, it never gets into the community, how that can ever hurt the community. But I've said that many times. But the other issue is that people said to me after the last time we voted in favor of the testing of medical marijuana, they said, you're not listening to the will of the people. Well, we know it expired. It was only for a year. But Don and those who feel that way, just remember, I said this from the beginning, I think a lot of people felt this way. That bill that people voted on was an all or nothing. There's 5 pieces to cannabis, the growing, the production, the shipping. There's 5 pieces. We didn't have the choice to vote on every one of those pieces. It was all or nothing. So, Don, when you talk about nibbling away, I think it's a fair nibble to take one of those 5 pieces that can hurt the community, that can create jobs, and vote in favor of that without hurting the other 4 pieces. Had you made that original vote for the public to vote on each and every one of those pieces, then we would have known right now tonight whether that piece about testing was supported or not. We don't really know that. So then we're charged up here with making a decision. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Comments? Anybody else? No. I guess I'll echo that sentiment, and I feel that we're aware this was going to sunset. The ask was made. We have been, discussing this in the community for quite some time now, and the concern that this will somehow erode and some of this body is going to suddenly give in and allow other uses is false. We've been very clear in that. You're seeing all around us, you're seeing dispensaries and other things happening, and that hasn't happened here. This body has been very firm. We have a testing facility that has good paying jobs that functions in our industrial park right now today. And this will simply allow them to test another version of marijuana that's allowed, it's legal, it was approved by the voters of the state of Michigan, and it's, it's here. It's being consumed in our community today. They're simply testing it. And I can speak for myself. I feel it's important that it's tested to ensure safety. So I will vote in favor. So if there's nothing else, we've got a motion, we've got a second to introduce the ordinance to amend sections 15.10.35 and 2300. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
The motion passes. Okay. Let's roll on. Next. Same topic. City Council will be asked to introduce an ordinance to amend Article 4, Chapter 14 of the South Haven Code of Ordinances and repeal Article 5 of that same chapter in order to permit authorization of adult-use marijuana safety compliance facilities operated in accordance with state law, as well as, I guess we can do this all in one, and set the public hearing to occur, for both items on February 21, 2022 at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to introduce the ordinance as discussed. Kate, you want to discuss the next piece? Anything else you need to?
Again, this is the second part of this, and this is going into those definitions. This is where that correction needs to be made from division to section that George had mentioned, section 14-81. So again, this is just redefining things that should the council want to introduce and adopt these two ordinances, these do have to be further defined, and this is what this ordinance does.
Okay, very good. All right, we've got the motion, we've got the second. Any other public questions or comments on this piece? Seeing none. Council questions or comments? Nothing? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, it passes. Very good. Next, City Council will be asked to consider the following actions regarding an amendment to the Harbor Club Plan Unit Development. First, we would like to have an introduction of the proposed amendment to the Harbor Club Plan Unit Development. Now, before we do this, actually, Kate, there's one piece in there. In the proposed piece, do we need to specify and clarify the fence? Would that help? I don't know if you want to get into that first or wait. Maybe we should just.
Sure. The short answer, and I'm happy to give a summary if you'd prefer, is I don't think you need to call attention to any specific conditions at this time. This is just an introduction of the topic. Clarifying anything regarding conditions would probably be more appropriate when there's a motion to approve or deny or
Next week, or 2 weeks.
do whatever else. Yes.
Perfect. Well, maybe let's get a motion, sorry, for tonight, and then we'll discuss what we got to do for the next one. Sound good? So why don't we just.
Make a motion to introduce a proposed amendment to the Harbor Club Plan Unit Development and set the public hearing on the proposed amendment to occur on Monday, February 21st, 2022 at 7 p.m.
Second.
All right, we've got the motion, we've got the second. Sounds like, Griff, you got this one?
Sure, I'm happy to. So this PUD has been amended 4 times since its inception in the mid-2000s, and the applicant's now seeking a 5th amendment to remove 4 units from that PUD with the possibility or the understanding of there being a possibility to relocate them in a future phase. They're not seeking the specific relocation at this time, but this 5th amendment, in short, would permit the development to develop some off-street parking, a community swimming pool, and a clubhouse located within their development. And the condominium association has already approved the construction and the location that's seen in the 5th amendment. I will draw attention, just, Mr. Mayor, because you mentioned it, there were a number of conditions that were recommended by the City Council regarding this PUD amendment, and a specific one, number 7, was in regard to providing privacy screening or a vegetative barrier that is at least 80% opaque year-round along the length of Ravine Lane. During some public comment during the public hearing at the Planning Commission level, a neighbor was concerned about the noise and impact of a pool being located close to their property. So hearing that concern, the Planning Commission added a 7th condition to provide some screening or a vegetative barrier. If if City Council so inclined to clarify or specifically say one or the other, you have that right to do so. But that was really the only notable item about this, was adding of a 7th condition to clarify some concerns or address some concerns from some neighbors that were raised at the Planning Commission level. I'm happy to answer any questions if I can.
Council questions for this point? All right, looks like nothing at this time. Public questions on this one? Nothing, all right. We've got a motion and a second to introduce the proposed amendment and set that public hearing to occur Monday, February 21st. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We're set. All right, next, City Council, we asked to consider the following actions regarding street closures for special events. First, we'll be asked to approve the purchase of 34 concrete Jersey barriers at the amount of $15,158.75 from Crowd Control Warehouse. And let's do that one first. How's that sound? We'll get the second one. So how about a motion on the first one?
I make a motion to approve the purchase of 34 concrete Jersey barriers in the amount of $15,158.75 from Crowd Controlled Warehouse.
Second.
We've got a motion. We've got a second. Mr. Bill Hunter is here to talk about barriers. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Your Honor, City Council. In front of City Council today is the purchase of concrete barriers. The concrete barriers, the sole intention of these is to provide better protection, any road closures we have in the downtown area. We're seeing more road closures in the downtown area for longer durations, where it opens up the public right-of-way for pedestrians to transit. Is the potential, for example, if something could happen, and we just don't want that. So what we're proposing is these concrete barriers where they would be staggered. The idea is if staggered with a sign saying road closed. So if somebody does see it, it's a definite road closure. Also with the concrete barriers, if something does happen, it's something more stout. Originally, we tried using water barriers, but people just discovered they could just empty the water, and I watched people just move them with hands and get them out of the way. They really didn't do the intention what they should have been. With this actually here in a separate one is we would actually include this plan with our special event application. This would allow anybody that's actually throwing a special event to just plan around that accordingly. Like I said, it's just to provide protection for the people enjoying the event as well as anybody in the corridor during that time. And I'm here to answer any questions that City Council may have.
Any questions? Go ahead, Bill.
Bill, just a couple quick questions. So to install, remove these barriers, would you need, I'm assuming you need some kind of a forklift or something like that in the city, I'm assuming does have at least one or two of those things that were capable of doing that?
Yes, George. We would have to use probably the forks on either our loaders or on the our backhoe bucket and set them appropriately that way.
And then secondly, I know sometimes, like for some of the events, we'll have barriers across the road, but they're intended to be able to be moved because sometimes you need to get a vehicle in there for like emergency purposes or anything like that.
Mhm.
How would that be handled? Would there be certain areas that, or are you going to stagger them so someone can still get through? It's just they got to take more of a tortured path.
You answered it well. It would be staggered. So all of them would be staggered. The whole point of the closure would be offset, just like this. It wouldn't allow like a larger vehicle, but an emergency vehicle could respond to anything within the corridor.
Okay, thank you.
It's just to prevent that, someone from shooting through a crowd.
Mhm.
Kind of. Unfortunately, we got to do that, so.
Do you foresee it taking more time for setup and breakdown?
Oh, it would definitely take more time to set up. We would have to, it would take more equipment and manpower to do so. We would have to probably stage them, I would say probably the day before, so lose some parking on that one day, for example, some stalls in some areas. So then staff could actually set it up, and then when the tear down, set them back off to the side, and probably the following Monday during regular work hours, just have them then load them up at that time. So it'd be some sacrifice of some spots, just for the meantime of staging purposes. But yes, to answer your question, more manpower and more equipment, so larger cost to do so.
Steve, you had a question?
My question, probably more for Kate, would be on the applications for special events, when we have to have street closures and put the extra labor into these things. Can we possibly look at, with this group possibly, I don't know, of charging the people that are having the event so that it's not a negative impact on the city?
We can look into that. I know we tried to kind of offset some of our costs with the application fee for special events. We do have a number that do waivers, but we can look into that. We do know that there are costs associated with downtown street closures. We do know there's costs associated with various festivals. So we have been tracking them. Each festival has its own separate 4-digit code, and we've been tracking our expenses amongst the departments.
Thank you.
That's a fair question. Anybody else, council questions? If not, any public questions on this purchase? Good evening. Come on up to state your name and address.
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. Just thank you, Councilman Schlock, for asking that question. That was one question I had, and it's something very serious I think the city needs to take into consideration, is making sure our extra costs are distributed for the purpose for which they're incurred. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else? Okay. All right, we've got a motion, we've got a second to purchase these concrete Jersey barriers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. They are approved. And next, we'll be asked to approve the road closure plans for Phoenix Street and Water Street to be included in the special event application. Need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the road closure plans for Phoenix Street and Water Street to be included in the special event application.
Second?
All right, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Bill, is this you again? Bingo.
Yes, this is me. The plan just details the placement of the barriers, the amount of Jersey concrete barriers that are in each location. And this will just allow in the future, anybody putting in special event applications to plan their event around these.
That would look pretty straight ahead. All right. Any questions? All right. We got a motion, we got a second. Any public questions on this one? All right. All right, we've got the motion, we got the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's approved. Thanks again, Bill. All right, next, City Council will be asked to consider approving the use of ARPA funds to restore utilities to the Maritime Marina in the amount not to exceed $70,000.
I'll make a motion to consider approving the use of ARPA funds to restore utilities to the Maritime Marina in an amount not to exceed $70,000.
Second?
All right, we got a motion, we got a second. Griffin, you got this one? Kate's got this one.
Griffin, go ahead and start us off.
All right, sounds good.
Sure, we'll be a team.
Tag team.
So city staff's here this evening requesting the use of some of the city's allocation of ARPA funds in an amount not to exceed $70,000 to restore utilities, including both electric and gas, to the Maritime Marina. Should this work not be completed by the 2020 boating season, the Maritime Marina is at risk of needing to be closed for this season. The Maritime Museum has some ongoing construction plans, which is called for an existing electric panel to be relocated and new gas lines to be run to the bathhouse, and the Marina Fund does not have the funds to complete this work at this time due to the emergency repairs and high water levels of the last few years. So we're here this evening asking for an allocation of ARPA funds to support this project. And upon staff's review, this would be an eligible expense for ARPA due to its recreational nature and the infrastructure component of the request. But with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know Kate can maybe speak to the proposal we received in a little bit more detail, but happy to do what I can to answer questions.
Well, I saw this proposal from Wagner that is doing the work on the north side, and we've worked with him on other items as well. This is a proposal to get the electric up and running for this year for those 30 boats that are at that location. Should there not be electric at that marina, we could lose out on $130,000 of revenue. As we see in the deficit reduction plan for the Marina Fund, the 594 fund, taking out an entire marina and not having it function and pay those seasonal fees are quite the fund takes quite a hit when you don't have those revenues coming in. I've been working with the DDA to offset some of these costs, and I do want to assure the council that while this is coming from ARPA and not the general fund, we will be pursuing all remedies to make sure that if there's other reasons or other places that this payment should have been made, we will be pursuing them. But as Griffin mentioned, time is of the essence. We do know that there's lead time on these electrical components. We do want to get them fixed, and we do want the marinas to be up and running. They do open April 15th, so that gives us about 2 months to get that work done, and that's why we're coming to you with this request today.
All right, sounds good. Good report. Any council questions on this one?
So do we already have these ARPA funds, or are these things that we also have to get approval from the county first?
No, we have them here.
Okay.
They've been distributed directly to the city. We had the first tranche that has been done. Nearly every city and county have received that first half of distribution.
Good question.
A little bit of a definition of why do we need Why do we not have utilities at the Maritime Museum right now?
There is, the museum, the Michigan Maritime Museum is currently undergoing their own construction project out there. There, at some point, they had asked us to move the panel, but what had also happened before is that the utilities were located right on the waterfront, and we knew that those utilities would be cut while they were installing a new seawall. At some point, the panel had been fallen over, and you can see those pictures in your packet. That's where one has to be replaced and placed in a different location. So that's what the Wagner proposal is showing, is to have that new panel installed.
In regard to gas lines, while the Maritime Museum was undergoing their project, they also found that the marina's gas line was being run in a similar location, and it was a substandard or not up to code gas line. So we would need to replace that line to make sure that it's safe and up to code. In addition to in addition to restoring the use of that bath and shower house for the boaters in that area.
Anything else? If not, any public questions or comments on this one?
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. I just want to reiterate what I sent over the weekend, that I do not disagree that this needs to be done because of the negative impact to the city if it's not done. But I am disappointed that ARPA funds have to be used for this as opposed to replacing lead pipes and other things. And so there just seems to be a continual increase on the burden of taxpayers and not being able to use ARPA funds for critical state mandated purposes and doing something that's more for a luxury that's not self-sustaining. And I'm a little bit disappointed that the consent agenda E was not moved out of consent to potentially increase slip fees. This all goes to the revenues that are allowed to the municipal marinas, and every penny does count. It starts adding up, and allowing that agreement to go without having fees better just continues to result in a larger offset of expenses that the taxpayers have to burden or ARPA funds have to cover, rather than going to infrastructure that's for our city and not for our tourists. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions? Public questions? Council questions? No. I got a nod down there. Again, because it is necessary to get the marina up and running, I will vote in favor. I would agree that we should continue to research any and all revenue sources. I'll just leave it at that. So, we've got a motion, we got a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved. And we are ready for an update from our Public Works Director, Mr. Bill Hunter. Good evening. You got to move some snow finally after a couple-year break.
Your Honor, City Council, it does seem like now it just snows more in February than it does.
Yeah. Well,
Remember,
we'll
as a
take it.
kid, it seemed like it used to snow earlier, but
What's funny is you drive north of Grand Rapids, there's no snow.
I know. This is an update from the Department of Public Works. Concrete standpipe replacement. We're still working with Baird and Company for the financing on that. The distribution system inventory, or the DSMI, that's Eagle now requires a verification. Our DSMI was completed 2 years ago. This is a verification before the final. It's requiring a 4-point inspection verification of 551 locations. We are working on that, and hopefully to get that done this year. A new substation project, staff has hired a firm to negotiate the necessary easements to feed the substation, where hopefully this route that we're looking at right now will save us some money for the coming substation project. Cross-connection inspections, I have this on every year, every time. It's just to remind everybody that Shaw's has a contract with HydroCorp, and that's for cross-connection inspections. That's required with the Safe Water Drinking Act 399. These are required, this inspection is a two-part. It either requires the inspection of the facility or the testing of the backflow prevention assembly. AMI project, as mentioned in the audit earlier today, we're still waiting on meters. Meters are still coming in. Once the meters come in, then we mobilize and we do a complete install of the meters. And that should be completed by the summer of this year. Aylworth non-motorized path, that's on Aylworth, it's from Kalamazoo to LaGrange. Staff worked and submitted actually a grant for them, it's called CMAQ, but it's the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Program through MDOT. We'll be paying actually, the whole project is $315,000. The CMAQ portion, what we're going to receive grant-wise is $134,783, and the city will get matching of $182,17. We do actually try to every year to try to get CMAQ money. We're still trying to, and Mike Dopp's done a very good job of leveraging that and getting those dollars for us. Water Street planting plan, that's right by the stairs. We had Edgewater take a look, and one of the recommendations was a planting plan to stabilize that. We're working on specifications. We can put in an RFP to get bids for this year. Department of Public Work is working on budgets and capital plan. Kids Corner Phase 2, we received a Land and Water Conservation Fund development grant of $275,000. City matches $275,000. We're working with Edgewater Resources for public outreach on the design and for the play structure. BSNA Cemetery Module, we're still working on implementing that. Covert Township flushing rates, those rates were approved by SHASA July 27th of 2021. However, due to changes in the leadership at Covert Township, I had a meeting with them and meeting went well, and we expect to hear back from them soon on how we're going to implement these rates for Covert Township. The flushing rates are actually due to disinfection byproducts. Just a quick disinfection byproducts is basically water staying in the pipe too long, you don't have enough flow. The flushers were put into the system to flow. It's because their system they have a lot of storage in the ground, which they probably, hindsight, should have put some smaller pipes in, and that's why we're looking into this flushing rate. Cost of service study, UFS. We had a cost of service study done by UFS. It was completed in 2020. This is an update of the projections. I'll have a work session meeting with SHASA to go over this with our consultant from UFS. Small cell antennas, we're working with AT&T in 3 locations, North Beach, South Beach, and the downtown. This will improve the 5G area within the city of South Haven. The Blueberry Tank Vault project, contracts were signed. Allied Mechanical is taking care of that. It's an altitude valve at the base of that tank. What that allows, altitude valves work pressure on both sides, so if the pressure gets higher on the one side, it automatically closes, which that allows actually the operators at the plant be able to feed from the low side into the high side or vice versa. Without that, we couldn't do that, because it would just overflow and we would just flood the whole area. So this will allow us to feed from one side to the next, which we weren't able to do before that. We're still working on a design for the DPW locker room improvements for a building that's fairly new, and I don't understand it, but we never had female lockers. So we're more and more female employees. We need to accommodate them, and that's what this one is for. Art Center roof replacement, thanks to the hard and dedicated work of the Art Center, they received a Macaca grant, and they're receiving $38,000 for the replacement of that roof, and we're expecting that to be about $75,000. The splash pad donor plaque, we're going to have one finally installed, and it'll be at the splash pad for the summer, recognizing all the donors for that project. ARPA funds, I'm proud to announce actually the last meeting I was at for the county matched actually, this is the first step. So this first one was with the ARPA committee, but they did actually match our ARPA, so they're at this time proceeding it to the next level, but it looks promising for their match of $480,468.75, of course. Had to throw that 75 cents in just for giggles. The mowing request for proposals, those are open. Staff is reviewing those now, and I should have something to city council. They came in well, very competitive. For how many questions we received, we only got 2 bids, but we're reviewing them, and we'll have a recommendation to city council next meeting. 12th Avenue Substation Agreement, been working back and forth with MPPA and AEP on a new substation agreement. These are required every time you have substations. We have existing agreements on the 2 substations we have. This is the 3rd one with AEP, and I should be hearing back from him shortly. I think this is like the 2nd round where we're marking up the agreement. Wastewater treatment plant boiler, we've had some issues with the current boiler we have. It's well past its replacement time. We did get repairs done, and we're investigating possibilities of replacing it. The cost just to replace this size of a boiler is $250,000. It's not just for the heating of the building, it's actually for the process at the plant itself, so it's not just heat. Wastewater treatment plant, we are applying for grants, actually, for our master plan for the wastewater treatment plant. One thing in particular we're looking at is the mitigation project, which is $800,000. We're working right now on specifications for the air handling unit here in City Hall. Hartford 69 kV rebuild. Remember, this is not anywhere like the last rebuild we had. This is a smaller section, so there's 2 feeds, so it's nothing like, this is just the 2nd feed going into it, so it's much smaller run. Remember the last time we were out for a while, we had those long outages. This isn't that. This is a smaller section that they have to do, but we're working with AEP on that. And last but not least, Van Buren County is mobilized, and they're going to be installing a new 911 antenna on top of the industrial water tank out right behind Walmart. Does City Council have any question on any of these projects or anything else in the Department of Public Works?
Question?
Go ahead, Joe.
Bill, the small cell antennas, AT&T, that's something AT&T is doing, and we're just basically working with them. I mean, they're doing everything except for we have to work with them on where to put them and things like that, right?
Yes, George, that's exactly it.
The sidewalk or bike path project on Aylworth, this summer, possibly?
I thought it was, yes. It'll be next budget, so it might be that, or it might be pushed off depending on the design. So it might be this summer, but it also might be early spring of next year.
Go. Waiting.
Keep pushing. It's a
wanna
big
see
10-foot path, so.
Yeah, we want
big
people
10-foot
off that
path.
road. It's
Yes.
as those that live over in the first ward, people walk on that all the time. It'd be nice to get them off that road and onto a sidewalk.
Well, with CMAQ money, we can't get smaller than that, so you can't do 5-foot sidewalks. So when you go for CMAQ money, it's 10 foot.
Better than the road, much better than the road. And then just to clarify, the Eagle verification process for the DSMI, the 551 locations, again, that would be another mandate, correct? And
Yes.
we're gonna try to track some of those costs and send that letter to Lansing to say we're incurring a lot of costs that are being sent down without any funding to support it. So if we could make sure we track those costs, that'd be great. So on that note, if there's no other questions, I'll say thank you and have a wonderful evening. Thanks to your crew for keeping the roads clear. It was kind of fun to almost get stuck in the road the other day. I was kind of,
I'll pass
it's been
it
a
on to
long
them.
time since I've almost got stuck.
I'll pass that on to them. Thank you.
So yeah, we appreciate it. It was nice to have them clear. All right, we are at that point in the agenda. When citizens in the audience will be heard on items not on the agenda. So if you have anything, I know Mr. Whiteford was out there. If you'd like to come out and speak on an item not on the agenda, come on up. You'll just state your name and address, and you'll have up to 5 minutes to tell us some good news.
5 minutes, wow.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Kevin Whiteford. My address is 7258 Beverly Drive, South Haven. I want to first say thank you guys for doing what you do. Oh, my God. God bless you for all the work that you guys have to put in. So my announcement today is, whether or not you've heard or not, but I am going to run for the 38th District House seat for the state of Michigan. That House seat is the area between the northern part of Saugatuck Township all the way down to the Indiana border. I call it the Caterpillar because it hugs the lakeshore. I am incredibly excited about doing this. As you may know, just a little bit about me. Some people just don't know, or maybe they do, maybe they don't, but I am a CPA. I have a master's in tax law. I taught tax law, federal law, and state law at a major university for 6 years. I ran a $500 million family-owned business in 50 states and 33 countries at the age of 28. So I've worked hard. My inspiration, by the way, was my dad, who was a bricklayer, and he raised 5 kids in a small house, 3-bedroom house, 1 bath, and he worked from being a bricklayer to a clerk in a bookkeeping firm, and then he eventually owned his own little bookkeeping company. So I thought that was pretty cool. That is where I get my hard work. My fortunate path has taken me here to South Haven. We bought a lot in 2006. We finished our home in 2008. In 2008, I brought a couple businesses here. Our main businesses right now are real estate and investments. The investment business was primarily started in 2010 here in South Haven at corporate headquarters. It is now recognized as one of the largest independent agencies in the country, and we serve people in 25 states. The real estate business, as you may know, is helped and operated by some of my kids. Some of the neat things is there are 15 Whitefords in the South Haven area, between kids and grandkids and spouses and fiancés. So I'm proud of that. My inspiration, by the way, and my goal, my priorities as a state rep is going to be to be the voice for small businesses up and down this lakeshore, period. Second thing is going to be, my priorities are going to be the children and the grandchildren. I want to be their inspiration and their voice to have a future here in South Haven and Michigan, to enjoy the things that I have enjoyed as a person. And those are the things that I would like to bring to my run for the State House. So again, I'm Kevin Whiteford, running for the 38th District State House here in the state of Michigan. Don't know if you have any questions about me or anything else, but thank you for having me.
Nice to have you here.
Good.
Thanks for having your
Okay. Thank
businesses
you.
here. Saw your lovely bride today,
Thank
so always a pleasure. Anybody else? Good evening.
Nancy Nat, 125 Elkenberg. Before I start, I just want to say that I am for affordable housing that's done with quality and for the betterment of the people living there and the neighborhood surrounding it. I'm here tonight to talk about a follow-up to the Planning Commission meeting from February 3rd, 2022. The habitat application for the final site plan is missing the environmental impact statement. The application is incomplete and should not be voted on. I would like to communicate my disappointment in city staff, particularly with Griffin, Brad, and Nick, our city attorney, for suggesting that a waiver be given to Habitat Company on this important ordinance for which the City Council unanimously voted for in August of 2021. I find it hard to believe that the ordinance was overlooked by city staff since it was recently voted on and written by Nick, our city attorney. According to the ordinance, the environmental impact statement is required to be done by a consultant or an environmental engineer. The waiver will allow city staff to piecemeal this report, and that is a contradiction to what is required in the ordinance. From the beginning of this process, the City Council assured residents that the environmental issues would be a priority for the Overton development, and this waiver does not consider that. Per the ordinance, the EIS should be prepared by one engineer or one consultant. It shouldn't be grabbed from documents throughout wherever they choose to pick and choose them from and piecemeal it and copy and paste it together. This is not what is proposed in our waiver. And there is a multitude of things that need to be considered, which I do not need to go over tonight. It's written in the ordinance. My questions are this. When will the environmental impact statement be properly done and available for the public to read and review? Will a complete application be required to be resubmitted by Habitat Company? And will the complete application be given public notice in the newspaper? In closing, I'd like to say that I am aware there are deadlines to meet for funding of this project. That should not be the motivation in pushing through an incomplete application for the final site plan. The city staff, who is paid by our tax dollars, should have the interests of the residents as the priority. By allowing a waiver on this critical ordinance, you are turning your backs on the health and safety of the residents of South Haven, and more importantly, well, as importantly, setting a dangerous precedent for future developments. Please do the right thing. In summary, the final site plan presented by Habitat is incomplete due to this missing environmental impact statement. No vote should be held until the application is complete, public notice given, and a 15-day allowance for public review. Holding a planning commission meeting on February 16th to vote on this incomplete final site plan is premature. City staff requesting a waiver from City Council of the environmental impact statement with a copy and paste late submission prepared by city staff does not follow the parameters of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Lisa Beck, 879 Monroe Boulevard. I would like to reiterate, as the woman before me, number one, that I am for affordable housing if it's done correctly. And mostly number two, I was also at the Planning Commission meeting, and I don't understand why for Habitat, an outside company, something so important as an environmental impact statement would be waived. We have expressed our concern about the contamination. I know you've heard me numerous times prefer to have it all done in one phase rather than 3 phases for safety. I think this is a big issue. During the Planning Commission meeting, one of the other things that was brought up, which was for 808 Monroe Boulevard, variance for a hot tub and a pool. And at that time, you can look at the minutes or whatever, it was said that, well, it will destroy the bluff possibly. It's only temporary housing because the house might fall in the lake. I'm paraphrasing there. But basically, it was an ordinance and it couldn't be broken. Now we're looking at something as important as environmental impact statement on contaminated property, and we're saying, well, we could probably waive that. I just don't understand what our priorities are there. I also spoke earlier and sent a letter to the council, I hope you got it, regarding the variances for setbacks and things. This is Habitat trying to stuff more housing into a small area. Again, I'm for affordable housing. I have been all along. I would like to see a development where people will live and want to stay, raise families, enjoy it. Not something that you can look at my presentation or whatever from the planning committee, but I figured it all out that basically what we're giving each person without the variance and stuff like this, without any kids involved, without any dumpsters or a trash area or facility maintenance, is less than a 2-car garage to live. People aren't going to want to stay there and buy that. And we give a variance where we're just squishing in more people. It was brought up at the Planning Commission that Habitat could make money with slightly less units. And I am totally for that, and I hope that the council and the Planning Commission will at least consider that. But I agree that there should be no vote, no anything, until we get the environmental impact. It's putting the safety of the residents, of the people that will live there, and perhaps liability for the city later down the road. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Joe Wilkins, 811 Indiana. Councilman Reeser, I want to make sure I understood you correctly. Because the verbiage wasn't the way you thought it should be, it was deemed unfair, even though we had to get signatures and work through the city attorney to have the right verbiage, and those that wrote signatures in agreed that the verbiage was okay, the vote went through, but it was deemed unfair?
Point of order.
Hey, Joey.
All right.
Joe.
Okay, I just want to say
We've
that.
been through that topic.
When it comes
so-
to Short-term rental issues. I would like to make my position clear on tonight. I am not against, I repeat, I am not against any homeowner who desires to make money by renting out their home, especially in trying times like these. I am not against homeowners who desire to sell their homes at the highest profit. God bless them. But what I am against is the negative impact or damages that the STRs are causing in our cities in many areas. I am against the negative impact that the 4-to-1 ratio or high density is causing in our neighborhoods. I'm against the negative impact that it's having on the character of our city. I'm against the negative impact it's having on the diversity in our city, which I see it being more affected in the black community. I hate to say it, it's quickly becoming the have and have-nots. I am against the negative or gentrification that's going on, especially in Ward 1, where houses now going up for $800,000 one block away from a low housing complex. I am against the negative or misplacement of many that would love to make South Haven their home. And finally, I'm against the negative impact that it's having on affordable housing in our area.
Thank you, Joe.
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. I would first like to acknowledge DDA Chair Andrea Olson for reaching out to me to resolve matters from last week's DDA meeting. The city is blessed to have a chair like Ms. Olson who works to unite us. I also want to thank Planning Commissioner Chair Stegman and City Councilman Sleeper for not holding a vote on the PUD for the Overton project this past Thursday. However, I am very disappointed with the City Council in general for allowing the alleged conceptual plan of the Overton site to exist for months with no guidance that the density was too high and the parking ratio was too low. I say alleged conceptual plan because the only difference from the plan from September 2020 was a measly decrease of 4% of the number of units, which has remained constant since April 27, 2021, and an unacceptable decrease from an overall parking ratio of 1.6 to 1.4 spaces per unit, a decrease of more than 12%. We could have been addressing these issues much sooner than just last week. You have wasted time since April 2021. The city's biases against protecting our health, safety, and welfare were offensively clear since the agenda packet for the February 3rd Planning Commission meeting because blatant deficiencies in Habitat's application were not brought to the attention of the Planning Commission by the staff report. Such failures have allowed, I believe, an inflated density that is permitted by the zoning ordinances that were ignored. To add insult to injury, at last Planning Commission meeting, staff, rather than admitting they had and Habitat both missed the obligation to provide the required environmental impact statement, cobbled together insufficient arguments to allege the EIS was complete, or alternatively, tried to persuade the Planning Commission that a waiver would be acceptable because the city and Habitat had been working on this for so long. This requirement arose from this council's vote in just July. It was effective in August of 2021. The environmental impact statement is mandatory. It should not be waived. The citizens of South Haven deserve better. Before any plan is approved, please require a truly complete application that fully complies with our ordinances, objectively supported with relevant, truly comparable data to support any variance from our ordinances, especially parking, and at least 15 days to review Habitat's finally complete and compliant application. Take yourselves out of your gated community and homes with ample off-street parking and place yourself in the shoes of those who will live there, especially in the winter when off-street parking is prohibited. Picture yourself as a parent who cannot find a parking space in the dead of winter, has a screaming child or more in the car because they are tired and hungry. They just want to get to their bedroom. The parent drives in circles trying to find a parking place so she can get her children and herself with their food to her apartment, and all they can do is drive in circles. Please start uniting the residents rather than driving a wedge deeper between us. We all want housing. We all want our families and workers to live here. You drive this wedge deeper by refusing to clearly identify the families to benefit from this project and the requirements tied to the funding Habitat is pursuing. As early as August 30th, 2021, I showed you that first-year teachers, South Haven Police Department, and Shays would not qualify for the units in Habitat's examples based on income limitations. Afterwards, presentations, in my opinion, were muddy, not clarified. Please unify us by engaging us so we can be involved regarding the critical housing needed for South Haven with clear, measurable terms, so we are moving in one direction towards the same goal. Please stop Habitat from dictating the terms. The interests between Habitat and the city are not the same. There are, of course, some similar goals, but there are differences. You have ignored or dismissed our valid concerns. Contrary to allegations, we are not trying to derail anything. We are trying to make sure the light that we see at the end of the tunnel is not a train coming the other way.
Got
We
1
are
minute, Mary.
keeping focus on the local needs based on local data. Please design Overton to meet our needs, not Habitat's profits. Please start protecting our neighborhoods. Last but not least, please reverse Bill Hunter's decision not to make the trailside developer replace a tree cut on Abdel. The deficient plans failed to show that the tree was in the city's right-of-way that was commonsensically there. You've already allowed that developer to clear-cut designated open space because the plans were deficient. You've ruined the tree-lined street, and you've allowed skyscrapers to replace climate-controlling trees. The least you can do is make the developer replace any tree that was or is to be cut in the city's right-of-way. As several people have said tonight, our neighborhoods deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Got nothing. All right, let's do city manager comments. Good evening, Kate.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep my my comments brief. I did want to acknowledge that former Mayor Dorothy Appleyard has passed. As you know, she served the council from 2005 to 2009. Also, Miss Pat Quinn recently passed, and her service was this Saturday. Pat Quinn was retired from Shays, the South Haven Area Emergency Services, after 14 years of service. She also passed away recently. I, too, wanted to thank our Public Works and our Police Department, as well as Shays, for their outstanding work last week and over Icebreaker. Last week, we did get dumped on last Wednesday. In fact, if you were out driving in it, you were likely going to get stuck. I got stuck on Center Street in front of the movie theater. It's not much of an incline, but there was that much ice underneath the snow and a lot of snow. So I appreciate everyone's patience while we could clear everything off on Thursday, but I really want to give a shout out to our public workers who did a fantastic job. Those are my comments.
Very good. Hey, didn't you get an award? I have to say congratulations. Why don't you what was that award again? Can you just...
It was for a new manager's award. So first 1 to 5 years of new managers. So I was recognized by the Michigan Municipal Executives as for doing a good job, I suppose.
Well, well done. Well deserved. So good job. There you go. I'm going to give you a little. Sorry, I toot your horn there. Sorry.
Thank you.
Well done. Okay. Councilperson comments. Who wants to go? Mr. Reeser, shall I start with you this evening? Good evening.
I just want to say it was nice Saturday to see all the tourists in town, all the people flocking downtown at Icebreakers. And I hope all the retailers made a lot of money that day, because it seemed to make a lot of people in the stores. I would say I walked into Decadent Dog, but actually my dog pulled me into Decadent Dog, and the place was full. And I talked to Roxy, the owner, and she said she had all of her employees working and ringing up sales. So I hope that was true. I looked across the street at Clementine. People were lined up to get in. So I hope it brought a lot of people, and I hope it brought a lot of fun to the people in this town as well as the tourists.
Very good. Thank you. George, good evening.
I just wanted to reflect briefly on the passing of former Mayor Dorothy Appleyard. It was because of Dorothy that I got the idea to run for city council, and so it was a positive experience. It still is a positive experience for me, and I got Dorothy to thank for it. That's it.
Well stated. Thank you.
I just wanted to share my condolences as well to Dorothy Appleyard and Pat Quinn's families. And then just thank everyone for their comments tonight. I take everything you say to heart, and I'm here to serve you. So thank you for being here today.
Well done.
No comments.
Mine's a toughie. Not sure how to say it, but on item number 13 tonight, I voted to spend $70,000 of the American Rescue Plan money so that the city can have a chance and assure that we can try and make $130,000 in the marina. I would certainly hope and ask staff to pursue all avenues to recoup that money and find out why we are in this position in the first place, and please report back to us. That I ask in all fairness. Thank you.
It's fair. Well done. And Ms. Patricia.
I would like to say God bless the memory of the late Dorothy Appleyard. And in light of Black History Month, I would like to just read this quote. It says, "The more you know of your history, the more liberated you are." Maya Angelou.
Very good. All right, so yes, thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for your comments tonight. We appreciate them all. A lot of kind of tough topics right now we continue to work through. DPW staff, thank you for plowing the roads, and of course, I'm enjoying all the snow, and then I'm getting messages about power being out, so they also had to go out in the snow and fix power lines and all the other stuff that they do every day, so thank you. My lights turn on, my water turns on, my streets are cleared, so thank you for doing what you do every day. And yes, condolences to the Quinn family. Family's very synonymous with firefighting in this community, so our condolences to them. And Mayor Dorothy Appleyard, I had the privilege of serving with her for those 4 years, I think from 6 to 9, and got to be her pro tem, and she was a hard worker, real stickler. She did a lot of work to secure what is now Grace, but Albemarle, as that plant went through a transition, so a lot of work done by her. So our thoughts and prayers to their family. So on that note, thanks everybody for coming again. I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Motion is second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.